Then there is loss. Okay, three. So in the production, we need a marrow, and that failure we learned about aplastic anemia. And for also we need nutritional factors in that iron and B12 folate are important. So iron deficiency anemia also is in it. And the B12 folate there was in time, and finally I'll whatever remains I will take in the last class. Okay, that is left to be taken. And now circulation. So when the blood is in circulation, then it has RBC has a lifespan of about 120 days. So when that is decreased, there is lysis of RBC, and you call it as hemolysis. Hem means blood and lysis means RBCs are lysing at an early stage. That will produce anemia, and that is what we are going to discuss. The definition of hemolytic anemia, classification, lab features, and today we are going to learn about hereditary spherocytosis and CNS. The lab features is a question. Also, hereditary spherocytosis and CNS are another question student in your university exam. So before going into the detail, RBC has got a membrane and a cytoskeleton. So this membrane you see it is a lipoprotein membrane. So in this lipid membrane, you have some proteins inside. They are called transmembrane proteins. So remember, these are all transmembrane proteins within the lipid, and these are all into that. They are anchoring proteins. Okay, there are transmembrane proteins and anchoring proteins, and you have inside the cytoskeleton there are enzymes as well as hemoglobin. That structure. So about the RBC membrane, it's a lipid bilayer, and you have proteins within that, and the protein forms 50%, lipid forms about 40%, carbohydrate very minimal amount of 10%. So the important proteins, what are they? That is the spectrin. It is
Excuse me, ma'am. I'm sorry I'm interrupting, but your voice is not audible, ma'am. It's breaking a lot.
okay. 1 minute.
Thank you, ma'am.
Let me now it's clear.
It's breaking, ma'am.
How is it?
It's good now, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Thank you, ma. So here you see these are the spectrin in the twin, as well as 1 minute. I'll AC. Okay. Um, so there are two intertwined alpha chain and the beta chain. So here you have at the head end there is an anchoring protein that will be connecting with band 3. So these proteins are all important in hereditary spherocytosis. There is a band 3 transmembrane protein that is attached with ankyrin by protein 4.2, and that will fit into the head end of the spectrin, and at the tail end it is attached to the actin, and this actin is attached to the glycophorin with help of protein 4.1. So how many proteins are there? Spectrin, BAN3, angirin, actin, 4.2, 4.1. Okay. So why this is important? This membrane is crucial for the survival of the RBC. One. Second is for 120 days. For the stability, what is the stability? It has to, it is a selective permeability and it should be stable. Then shape by concave. Deformability, I will tell you what is deformability. Then selective permeability, it will let in some of the things and let out some of the things. So for that, this membrane is very, very essential. So this is deformability. Like you have the blood vessels are right from aorta till the capillaries. So when the RBCs pass through that, in the aorta it's not a problem. It passes like that. But when it enters the capillaries, it has to squeeze in. Okay, that is deformability. So that is why it is biconcave. Because of this shape, it squeezes easily into the capillaries. From the arterioles, it can enter into the venule. So this is very, very important, the biconcave shape. That is maintained by the membrane. And another point you have to know before going into hereditary spherocytosis is osmolarity. So that is a selective permeability and semi-permeable membrane. So this is isotonic. All of you know what is the isotonic solution for blood? One of you can tell me? Transfuse, we give also IV fluid, isotonic. So because if 5 molecules of water gets in, 5 will be coming out. Okay, it maintains the shape. Whereas when you put it in hypertonic solution, what will happen? The concentration here is more. So water will be coming out of RBC and the cells will be crenated, like crushed kind of crenated. When you put it in hypotonic, that is less than 0.9, 0.6 like that, lot of water gets into that and the RBC swells. So remember, dumbbell shape, that is the RBC size, RBC shape. Or you imagine a balloon. So this is the normal one, dumbbell kind of thing, and this is a balloon shape. Okay. So this becomes a spherocyte, a balloon kind of thing. So this is osmolarity, very important. So what is normal cell, red cell destruction? RBC completes 120 days of lifespan. Then cell membrane change, enzyme activity, everything declines. As we age, there are many changes. Similar way, the RBC also ages. Then it becomes less deformable. So the splenic macrophages, mainly spleen, to a small extent liver and bone marrow also. They recognize it, causes phagocytosis and cell death occurs. This is what happens normally. Now we move on to hemolytic anemia. What is hemolytic anemia? Anemia is caused by accelerated red cell destruction. RBCs are destroying very early and it is more. So what will happen to that? So the three changes. One is accelerated red cell destruction, so lifespan is reduced. Second is because the lifespan is reduced, there is anemia. So tissue hypoxia. What will be secreted? Increased erythropoietin. What will it do? It causes the bone marrow to make produce more RBC. So compensatory erythroid hyperplasia. Again, these cells will come into the blood early and they die. Okay. So when they die in large amount, all the products of degraded RBCs are retained. So when the RBC dies, what will happen? What are the net products? Heme will be there, globin. Then you have the porphyrin, hemosiderin, hemoglobin, bilirubin. All the end products will be increased. Okay, so decreased lifespan. Remember, increased erythropoietin and compensatory erythroid hyperplasia, retention of products of degraded RBC. Three things happen. So how do you classify it? Two types of classification. One is uh, intracorpuscular destruction, hemolytic anemia, extracorpuscular hemolytic anemia. Intracorpuscular defect. So the defect is this I told you in the time of anemia classification itself. But anyway, once more, this within the RBC. The problem is in the RBC. So what are the three components present in the RBC? One of you? I told in the first slide. One of you can unmute and tell three things in the RBC. Nobody is here. One of you can tell. Membrane.
Hemoglobin, lipid membrane, and protein.
Membrane, then hemoglobin, then one more. This one. Enzyme. Okay. Membrane and cytoskeleton contains hemoglobin and enzyme. Very good. So RBC membrane abnormality. That is hereditary spherocytosis, paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria, and Spursel anemia. Then inside, RBCs inside, enzyme defect and hemoglobinopathies. Okay, that is RBC defect. Extracorpuscular, RBCs are normal, but RBCs are being produced and they circulate from the circulation from head to foot. Okay, so that time something outside is destroying it. One is the spleen is not good. Spleen wants to eat away most of the RBCs, hypersplenism. Second is there are many antigens in the RBCs. So against them, antibodies are being produced. That is immune hemolysis. Third is microangiopathic hemolysis. There is some problem with blood vessel. So angio, blood vessel, micro, small. That is why small thrombus are formed within the blood vessel. When the RBC passes through that, it causes destruction. Next is infections and toxins like malaria, clostridium, etc. Okay, these are extrinsic factors. So intracorpuscular, extracorpuscular. Then the next is hereditary or acquired. So all these are hereditary up to this. Okay, from PNH till this is acquired. So this is, though PNH is a mutational disorder, it is a acquired mutation, not present when the child is born. So, and again you see there is one intravascular hemolysis and extravascular hemolysis. What is intravascular hemolysis? RBC dies within the blood vessel. So when the RBC dies within the blood vessel, what happens? What is present in the RBC? One of you can tell me the major component of RBC.
Hemoglobin.
Hemoglobin. So the hemoglobin is released into the blood. So it is circulating along with plasma. So plasma is now red in color. So this hemoglobin may combine with albumin and form hemalbumin to a certain extent. And hemoglobin is excreted in the kidney as hemoglobinuria or hemosideruria. Hemosideruria is the hemoglobin is deposited within the tubules and that is excreted. So intravascular, you remember there is hemoglobinemia, methemalbuminemia, hemoglobinuria, hemosideruria. Okay. Then we come to extravascular hemolysis. Within the blood vessel, the lysis will not occur. This macrophages. This is a macrophage. So this RBC is somehow engulfed within the macrophage by the macrophage, either due to the macrophage fault or due to the RBC problem, either the intracorpuscular or extracorpuscular defect. So here it is lysed. The globin heme. So globin will give amino acids. They enter into the blood. Iron, that will bind to the transferrin. Then protoporphyrin from the heme. The bilirubin, unconjugated bilirubin will be circulating here. Then the bilirubin will be excreted, reabsorbed, excreted as urobilinogen in the urine, stercobilinogen in the feces. So there is unconjugated bilirubinemia. Unconjugated bilirubinemia. Remember, and there is no, what is not there? What is not excreted in extravascular hemolysis? One of you can tell me. What is not excreted? In intravascular, it is excreted.
HCl.
Hemoglobin is not excreted in extravascular. Very good. So first you have to see whether there is evidence of hemolysis. So we said hemoglobin will be low because of increased red cell lysis. Second is reticulocyte will be increased or decreased? Increased because of the compensatory hyperplasia of the marrow. So in the peripheral smear, what do you see? When there is more stimulation of the RBCs, the reticulocytes, the nucleated RBCs, everything will be shifted into the blood. That you can see in the peripheral smear, nucleated RBC. I will show you. Then in the serum, unconjugated bilirubin is raised, urinary urobilinogen and reduced haptoglobin, and in the urine, hemoglobin or hemosiderin. All this will show evidence of hemolysis. So intracellular and intravascular, extravascular mechanism is intravascular compartment. Within that, red cell destroyed. Here it is in the macrophages. Causes can be toxin, membrane defect, enzyme defect, or drugs. Here it may be membrane defect or it can be a RBC defect. Hemoglobinemia is present here. Hemoglobinuria present. Haptoglobin is not there. Methemalbumin present. Hemosideruria present. LDH is elevated. That is, whenever there is a cell turnover, it will be present. Jaundice is present, and this is an important feature. No splenomegaly. Okay, in intravascular. Whereas in extravascular, huge spleen is the one which has got macrophages that will kill the RBC. So it is splenomegaly is present. And blood film will show fragmented because the RBCs are broken. Inside the RBC, there are fragmented red cell. We call it cystocytes also or helmet cell. But in the extravascular, it is spherocytes or RBC being taken up by the macrophage, all that is seen. And this is how the plasma looks in, like in the intravascular. And when you centrifuge, there is a button of RBC fragments. Whereas the plasma will be like this. It will not be red. And when you centrifuge, you get a normal one. So now moving on to hereditary spherocytosis. So this definition tells you everything about hereditary sphere. This is from Rob. It is a inherited disorder. Okay. So it will be transmitted to the progeny caused by intrinsic defect. Where is the defect? The defect is in the RBC, in the red cell membrane. Where in the RBC? Membrane of the RBC. So that what will it form? It formation of spherocytes. Spherocytes means, remember, balloon. Okay, spherical. So it is non-deformable. I told you membrane is it has to squeeze through the capillary small vessels like that, but it cannot be done. That are highly vulnerable to sequestration and destruction in the spleen. So spleen will trap it and destroy it. So now pathogenesis, etiology, everything comes in this definition. So it's a inherited one, intrinsic defect in the RBC, where in the membrane defect, so our spherocytes are formed, which are non-deformable. They tend to be trapped by the spleen to be destroyed. Okay, this person only found out that, and initially it was labeled like this, and it is the most common inherited membrane disorder. 75% will have autosomal dominant, 25% autosomal recessive. So where is the defect? I told all the protein, spectrin, angrin, band 3, 4.2, 4.1, you remember. So spectrin is present in chromosome number 1, long arm at region 2-1. Ankyrin, 8th chromosome, short arm at the region 11.1. Band 3, 17, chromosome number 17, long arm, and it is at the region of 1-2. So any one can be affected. So common one affected is 50% is ankyrin, this one, and 25% band 3, 10% it is spectrin. So others are the remaining. Okay, 4.1, 4.2, all that is rest of it. So ankyrin, band 3, spectrin. This gene mutations are the common ones, and it is autosomal dominant in 75%, 25% it's recessive. So autosomal dominant, it will be passed on to the progeny. Remember that. So what is the pathogenesis? What happens is, you remember the osmolarity and other things. Okay. So this is a normal cell biconcave, and what happens is there is a passing in, passing out of fluids. So this cannot take much of fluid inside because the cells are spherical. How it happens is, this is a normal cell, and in spherocytosis, this cannot, it is spherical, so it cannot squeeze into the RBC. So small portions of microvesicles. This membrane is not stable, not deformable. So small microvesicles are thrown away, projected out, and because of that, the cell becomes spherical and it becomes a spherocyte. So when it is non-deformable, when these cells pass through the cords of Billroth in the spleen, they are trapped by the splenic macrophages, and they are killed, lysed in the splenic macrophage. So what is this type of hemolysis? Intravascular or extravascular? One of you,
Extravascular.
huh? What is it?
Extravascular.
Yeah, very good. Extravascular. So this is in the Robbins. The lifespan of RBC will be 10 to 20 days. So there is a primary membrane skeletal defect. So membrane stability is reduced. Membrane is lost. Okay. So when the membrane is lost, the cells become spherical. Decreased, this word you must remember. Surface to volume ratio is reduced. Reduced surface. When it is biconcave, the surface means the outside surface. Volume is inside. The ratio of surface will be more. But here the surface to volume ratio will be reduced. So the cells are not deformable. Spleen will trap it. And one more thing happens. Because it is non-deformable, all the cells will stagnate together in the cords of Billroth. So what happens is erythrostasis. So they stay there. So the glucose content of the cells are reduced. The pH is reduced. Because of that also there is hemolysis. Phagocytosis and extravascular hemolysis. You see, spectrin angrin deficiency or BAN3 4.2 deficiency. These microvesicles are thrown out and released here, and spherocytes are formed. These spherocytes are trapped by the spleen. Also erythrostasis occur. That is, they stagnate there. Because of that, reduced pH and they come in contact with the macrophage, either hemolysis occurs or some of them in the initial stages they circulate again and further loss of membrane, microspherocytes, small ones are produced. All this happens within the spleen. So what are the investigations? In this blood count, when you do, you always remember the mean corpuscular hemoglobin concentration, MCHC. When it is high, you think of spherocytosis. In no other condition, the MCHC will be high. Okay. This is the only condition. Whenever it is more than 35, think of spherocytosis. Second, what is the spherocyte? This is a normocyte, normochromic RBC. And can you see this? Here, paler is there, paler is there. This is a hypochromic cell. Here you see the paler, but here no paler. And the cells are also smaller than all these cells. So it is a microspherocyte. So the finding in the peripheral smear is microspherocyte. Second is polychromasia. That is because of the reticulocyte appears in the peripheral smear like polychromasia. Blue tinge will be there in addition to the pink color. Bluish pink tinge will be there. That is polychromasia. Different colors. Chrome means color, poly, multiple color. And when you do the reticulocyte stain, because of the compensatory red cell hyperplasia, reticulocytes are increased. Reticulocytosis. And bone marrow shows erythroid hyperplasia because of the erythropoietin. Understood? Spherocytes, polychromasia, reticulocytosis, bone marrow, erythroid hyperplasia. These are the findings. And spleen. This is a normal spleen, size of a fist, but huge spleen. And when they do the spleen, sometimes the spleen tends to rupture within the in life. they rupture and it is an acute emergency to do splenectomy. Okay, so see here, the cords of Bilro everywhere in the spleen. These are all RBC stagnating, widened cords, and they are all stagnated RBCs. And this is what is this organ? Gallbladder. This contains stones. Why the stones are present? Because of the increased bilirubin. Okay, because of the increased bilirubin pigment stones are being formed. So 3 clinical features you must remember. This you may get. What are the 3 clinical features? Anemia, jaundice, splenomegaly. When these 3 are present, anemia, jaundice, splenomegaly. When these 3 triad, this is a triad for hereditary spherocytosis, anemia, jaundice, and splenomegaly. They are the triad clinical features. Abnormal shape RBC we will get, anemia due to destruction of RBC, and the jaundice is usually intermittent. Enlarged spleen will be there. Then biliary obstruction, fatigue, irritability, muscle weakness, all that. So when do you recognize? When does the patient come to the hospital for spherocytosis? It can occur during neonatal period, a very severe case or a mild case, or early childhood or in adult life. Okay. Any age is not a criteria. Any time the patient can come with the 3 symptoms. So it is asymptomatic in 20 to 30%, but splenomegaly jaundice is seen in most of them, and aplastic crisis may be there due to parvovirus infection, hemolytic crisis, pigment gallstones. Most patients benefit by splenectomy. They remove the spleen. So spleen is the one that is killing the RBC. So when you remove it, the anemia will come out. So then what are the investigations to prove it? Osmotic fragility. You all said it's a normal saline is good. Okay. So the normal saline. So we put up lot of concentrations of saline, like right from 0.9 to low 1 to low concentration. From here 1 to low concentration. So see here, this is 0.5. So this is a control and this is hereditary spherocytosis. In 0.6, there is a mild color change. But see here, at 0.85 itself, there is hemolysis in the test. Lysis is more here. It's increasing. Okay. It starts here. So this is the normal range for the normal person, normal biconcave RBC. Whereas in hereditary spherocytosis, the curve starts early and it is more like this. Curve is shifted to the right. Okay, shifted. So early hemolysis. This is due to, now you understood the imagine dumbbell or donut and a balloon. So which one can accommodate more water? Donut shape. Okay. So the normal RBC is like that. So this will accommodate more saline, but this cannot accommodate, so it lyses. Other techniques are the membrane electrophoresis can be seen. So you see here the angyrin. This is angyrin and this it is patient, this is absent. And also you can do elongation time of the membrane can be done. And the recent techniques is EMA binding by flow cytometry. So this is a eosin 5 maleimide that will bind with lysine 430 in the BAN3 protein, and you can detect it by flow cytometry. This is again a elongation time by patient and control. So what are the differential diagnosis for when you find spherocyte? One is autoimmune hemolytic anemia. When antibodies are present, we'll be dealing with that later on. But remember, spherocytes are seen in autoimmune hemolytic anemia. So we do that. Coombs test is done to differentiate it. Second is microangiopathic hemolytic anemia. This is a intravascular one, but here no jaundice and it is a intravascular hemolysis caused by small thrombi within the vascular system. These two has spherocytes. So summarize this. Chronic hemolytic anemia from birth or late in life, plenty of spherocytes, more than the autoimmune hemolytic anemia, massive splenomegaly. There will be cholelithiasis, that means spleen. Gallbladder has got stones. Then aplastic crisis, megaloblastic crisis, hemolytic crisis can be there. Coombs test is negative. This is the pathogenesis, and these are the spherocytes you see, and this is a extravascular hemolysis. And PNH also we'll finish today. This is similar membrane disorder, but this also I have put up the definition like this: acquired. So this is not hereditary. This is again a membrane disorder, but it is acquired somatic mutation where phosphatidyl, this is little difficult only, but you have to learn. Phosphatidyl inositol glycan complementation group A gene, that is PIGA gene. This gene is essential for the production of the enzyme which is needed for complement regulatory protein, membrane associated complement. Don't bother, when I take class fully, this will be easy one. So this gene is present in which chromosome? One of you can tell me. Which chromosome? Which chromosome? One of you can unmute and tell. Nobody? This is, see here, X. Okay. So who will be affected? Whenever
Male.
there is X linked, men or women? Male or females? All are sleeping? Tired, huh? So this is males are more commonly affected because male has one X chromosome, whereas females have two, and one will be inactivated by lionization always. So because of that, usually men are affected when the X chromosome is affected. Okay. So see here, paroxysmal. What is the meaning of paroxysmal? It is not continuous. It happens in paroxysm, now and then, not daily, not every day, not every time. It happens then and now and then. Nocturnal, night. Hemoglobinuria. He passes hemoglobin in the urine. So it's a intermittent passing of hemoglobin in the night. So see the urine of the patient. This is during night time and early morning. The night it gets collected and early morning urine is having hemoglobin. Okay. So why this is happening? There you remember there are transmembrane protein and ankyrin proteins I told you. So this ankyrin protein, one of them is phosphatidyl inositol glycan. Okay, phosphatidyl inositol glycan. This is anchored by protein CD59 and CD55. I'll be telling more about it. So see here, this CD55 decay accelerating factor. CD59 is membrane inhibitor of reactive lysis, the other name. It inhibits lysis of the membrane. This will not decay accelerating factor. That is, it decays. The complement is not decay. Okay. Then C8b, complement 8. BP, homologous restriction factor. This is associated with complement 8. So what happens is, this is an anchored protein. There is a amino terminal and the C terminal. And this is the cell membrane. So this phosphate, inositol, glucosamine, and glycan. This is the anchoring protein to the transmembrane proteins. Okay. So what happens is, there is a somatic mutation. This is normal hematopoiesis is ongoing. One cell gets mutated. Okay, there is some immunologic attack or some viral infection, something happens. So the GPI cell, this gets mutated. So this cell alone will be multiplying as a clone. Okay, that is called immunologic selection. So this is a normal RBC that is expanding, and these are the clone of abnormal these cells that are lacking in these proteins. So this is a acquired abnormality forming a clone of cells. Now you see this. Here you will understand the complement pathways. You must be knowing the complement pathways. Classical pathway, alternative pathway, and the lectin pathway. This is the normal RBC with the decay accelerating factor CD55 and membrane inhibitor of reactive lysis, that is CD59. Both are present. So here what happens to the complement? This complement, there is C3. C3 is converted to C3b. C3b converted C3b. Then that will activate 5, 5b, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then membrane attack complex. This is the one which destroys the RBC. So that is prevented. Membrane attack complex. So this attacks the membrane of the RBC, and it is a complex of all this. So that is prevented by this decay accelerating factor and the membrane inhibitor of reactive lysis. So RBC remains like this. This is normal. Whereas see this here, there is no CD55 and 59. No decay accelerating factor, no membrane inhibitor of reactive lysis. So what happens? This process is going on. So this membrane attack complex directly hits the RBC and lyses the RBC. Understood? Okay? Lyses the RBC. See here, this is normal. This is a mutated one. This is a GPA linked. All the proteins are present, 55, 59, all that. But here everything is mutated. No GPA linked protein. And here what happens? The CD58, 5B6, all this happens. But here all are interconnected. This blocks the membrane attacking complex, so normal hematopoietic cells. But here membrane attack complex will lyse RBC, platelets, it will attack, all that happens. So normal red blood cells are protected from complement attack by a shield of terminal complement inhibitors. So intact RBCs are present. When in PNH, this protection is not there. CD55 and 59 is not there. So what happens? The RBCs are lysed. So what kind of lysis is this? Complement mediated lysis. Where does this happen? Within the blood vessel. So it is a intravascular hemolysis. So free hemoglobin in the blood, and that is excreted by the kidney. That is why hemoglobinuria. So anemia. Okay. Second is because this attacks the platelets, there is thrombosis, renal failure, because lot of hemoglobin is going into the kidney and giving more workload, causing renal failure. Then pulmonary hypertension. This is a dangerous problem because of the small thrombus that is occurring within the small blood vessels. Same with abdominal pain, dyspnea, fatigue, all because of that. Then hemoglobinuria. Then erectile dysfunction, again because of the thrombus. So these three, thrombosis, renal failure, pulmonary hypertension, has significant impact on the mortality of the patient. This can cause stroke, myocardial infarction, etc. All these will cause impact on morbidity. Patient will be always sick, sick, sick. So what are the clinical features? Triad of clinical features. It is a intravascular hemolysis causing hemolysis. Urine contains hemoglobin, abdominal pain, dysphagia, erectile failure, severe lethargy. Then Budd-Chiari syndrome due to thrombosis. Thrombosis in the portal vein is called Budd-Chiari syndrome. It can occur in the liver or in the brain. 50% of the patients, and in 33% of them it leads to mortality. Then aplastic anemia, bone marrow failure. Have you remembered that when I took aplastic anemia, I said PNH is one of the cause. Often precedes PNH. So it selects for PNH. This is again a triad. Hemoglobinuria, thrombosis, intravascular hemolysis causing hemoglobinuria, thrombosis, and bone marrow failure. This is a triad you get in PNH. So why RBCs are only affected? Why the other cells are not affected? It's the nucleated cells are less sensitive to the complement. Why in the night alone he is passing hemoglobin? There is lysis. Because during sleep our carbon dioxide retention is more and there is a decrease in the pH. Acidity of the blood will be more, so lysis is more. Third, why thrombosis is occurring? This complement membrane attack complex is a prothrombotic state. So what are the lab tests? HAM test, acidified serum lysis test. PNH cells lyse due to complement activation in acidified serum. This is what happens in the night also. In the night, because of retention of carbon dioxide in our body, the pH of the blood is little reduced. Acidity will be there. So more RBCs are lysed. Same with sugar water test. Then flow cytometry due for CD59 and CD59-55 in the neutrophils also you can see. He is a HAMS test. This person found out that you mix up the RBC in serum which with a little bit of acid, that will cause lysis. Okay, this is PNH patients. This is control will not cause lysis. This patient serum is lysed. Sucrose lysis, This is patients and this is control. 10% sucrose causes lysis. Flow cytometry and PNH clone of cells lack this. There is one flare test. We use some bacteria, fluorescently labeled inactive bacterial toxin can be used. Also, you can look for CD55 and CD55. This is this is flare test, and this is 59 test you can do for PNH type 1, type 2 PNH. Normal red cells will show 59 positivity. GPI deficient cells will show negativity, 55 versus 59. Okay. Normal red cells will show both, but this will be deficient. Okay. So now we learned two things. One is hereditary, that is hereditary spherocytosis, and PNH is acquired. Both are mutational disorders. Now, one is autosomal dominant inheritance, whereas PNH will not be transmitted because it is acquired. And hereditary spherocytosis, extravascular hemolysis, whereas PNH is intravascular hemolysis. Any questions? Any questions? Questions? Anybody? Shall we stop? Sweta is there? Or anybody one else can tell me? Are you hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
We'll stop with that. Next week we'll move on to sickle cell, thalassemia, etc. Okay? Yeah. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.